Thank you. Haven't been here in such a long time, I'm forgetting the protocol here. We're establishing that there's a quorum. There are 4 of us. Thank you for coming. Missing 2. And re-electing a 3rd. How is that coming, by the way? Have you selected a...
No, the council decided to extend the...
Push your,
The council decided to extend the application process, so they are continuing on searching for
Applicants?
applicants.
Okay, all right. I knew 2 of them that, anyway. Well, okay. Items for consideration today. Okay, I got the same one, yeah. Oh, no, I don't. Thank you. Great. Okay, the minutes. Let's go over the minutes. Any questions on the minutes? I know you have one, Phoebe.
well, I have 2. First, there's a typo on page 2 under Jim Wing's comments, which says that the barn was a dwelling and the city council deemed the barn an accessory structure, not an accessory structure. And I had a question for our chair, because on item 4, it's pointed that I commented, I'm concerned about the tone of the policy that prevents PTC members from participating in meetings remotely the way City Council has as its privilege. And David Cornfield suggested that the chair meet with the mayor, and I'm wondering if that happened.
The chair met with the mayor. We tried to get Marcia Somers involved, and she had a late-minute cancellation, but we met for coffee, and we discussed it for an hour. He thought it would, just so we remember, the subject matter was brought up by you, not the first time, that we would consider going paperless as much as possible. Obviously, we can't get some of the plans to scale on and an 8.5 by 11, but mostly going paperless. They thought it was a great idea. I haven't heard back from either the mayor or Marcia Somers. So I would be open to you suggesting that I call either one of them, follow up, and see where it's going.
So can we send you some links of what City of Cupertino is doing, and then you can maybe email it to them and ask them,
Wonderful idea. Yes,
what
yes.
if we do this?
More ammunition, the better, yeah.
But shouldn't we approve the minutes and then have this conversation
Okay.
later?
Yeah, we should. All right.
Well, those are the 2 questions I have.
So I'd like to commend staff for a great job it was a very lengthy meeting, and I thought you guys captured everything that occurred. It was a really good job doing that.
Okay, and I'll discuss that when we get to potential future items at the end, all right? So let's go with it.
Okay, so I move that we accept the minutes of, August 15th, are they?
I'll second that.
Okay, in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it's passed. Okay. Discussion item 12-D-12 and 12SD-1. Dave Lukey, 82nd 3rd Street. That's the commercial design review and subdivision for a new 3-story mixed-use building with 1 level of underground parking. The project would include 5,525 square feet of office space and 20 residential units. Staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm David Cornfield, the Planning Services Manager, and Planner Dahl has the evening off, so I'll be providing a report tonight. This is the review of the final building materials for this project as described. Last month, the Commission considered the materials and other aspects of the project and approved all those except for the limestone material that was proposed, and the applicant was asked to come back and present an alternative. They've done that. They've prepared an exhibit board of the different style of the material. It's more of a brick pattern to it. We found that this certainly is an appropriate material within the context of the required design findings, and we're recommending that you consider approving that. And that concludes my report. Be happy to answer your questions.
I have a question on the drawings, but I think that's for the applicant. Is that?
Okay. Any questions of staff? No?
Not as yet.
None? Okay. Applicant?
Commissioners, my name is Toby Levy. I'm the architect for the project, and I guess we were here the last time you were here. As staff mentioned, that we had 7 conditions, and we worked through all those 7, and what we were left with was the finishes of the building. So the facades have essentially remained the same. And you want to do the next one? But we actually worked and looked for a whole bunch of materials and settled on the similar coloration, but this is 5.5-inch Coronado stone, which is like limestone, that's very varied. They make it in several widths, but we decided to stay with the 5-inch. It will provide a nice pedestrian scale. It will provide texture and color and and variation, and give us nice texture to the street. It is a sort of formal material, but a friendly material. And I must say that there was some miscommunication between us and the contractor putting the board together, because it will be dry stacked. So there will not be the gaps especially the gaps that you see with the plywood behind it. So it will be much more, next picture, it would be much more like it shows on this elevation of the building in San Francisco. And we took the picture of the dry stack outside my office, so that's how it looks when it just puts together. It provides a nice shadow of the difference of material and has the coloration. So I think this achieves the scale of what we wanted, and it's definitely a more subtle and less aggressive facade than what we had before. I'm available for any questions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions here?
Yes, I have a question. What I noticed is if you can go back to the first slide, there's a tower that's next to the entryway, and I noticed that in the drawings, so if you look at the first, so there's nothing here that shows what the tower's going to be, which I would think would be in the bottom picture. And if you go to the third slide, so on this side, it's dark. You can see the tower, it's on the right. And then if you go to the next slide,
You'll see it on the edge, yeah.
it's white.
That's just the difference between the rendering and it actually...
So I was trying to figure out what's going to...
Okay, so
What is it? What's it going to look like?
Well, it
How's
actually
look?
is those two materials. It's these two materials.
So it's going to look like this,
Yes.
not like the other one.
Well, yes. The other one was, go back to the rendering.
Yeah, see, it's,
So the other one, and what you're seeing in the dark space is actually the space between what you call the tower. It's actually going to be the breakfast nook of those units. It's it's going to be like a glazed breakfast nook for those 2 units. And there is a vertical dark space in between it where the stucco came down, but you don't see it from the other elevation. So if you go to the next one, yeah. So what you're seeing is the windows that are the horizontal, and then you're seeing the boards and the trim. And we actually made what you said, that we used that to accent the entry point as you walk down the street. So
so then on that side wall, it'll be...
the trim. Which
so
side?
Go back one slide. So here it's got a dark,
Right, that
color.
was that was the vertical stucco.
and that'll be...
That's going to be that's the divider between the tower and the
And that'll be that color. at
Right,
the
up
top.
there, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions?
I have a question. One of the questions we asked about was what the material would be for the wood railings. I had some concern about the longevity of it,
yeah.
and you were going to investigate.
Yes, so what we are looking for, we are looking at cedar, and we are looking at a stained cedar, and
Oh, a materials board, just what I always wanted.
we did look into the EPay, but the EPay turned out to be it grayed too much, so we decided to punt and go with just real wood and with a real stain and, do it in a more traditional way. And
Okay. And you're concerned about the long-term maintenance of that?
You know, we called up on a project we did, and they said that they had to repaint it they thought, you know, between 5 and 7 years, and, you know, that was sort of acceptable.
Okay. Thank you. That's my question.
Okay.
And for me.
Okay, well, the staff has recommended approval of the final exterior building material as proposed, so any entertainments for,
Well, I have a comment. I guess.
Okay.
So this is part of, right, we have, because one of my concerns, I like the stone, I really like the stone, and I don't know how other people feel about having so much of that stone on that front face where the offices are, and whether there should be something, I know before we had a dividing thing, what anybody's thoughts were with that, and I'm not,
Take it away.
I can jump in. Again, it's very subjective, but I personally, I really like this stone. The shadows in it are really nice. I know it doesn't do justice in this rendering because you don't see that, but if you go into the photograph that you had,
Yeah.
it does have a nice texture to it. I'm not concerned personally about the breakage because, sorry, but if you go back to the rendering, I like the way it's broken up.
Okay.
So even though it's on the same plane, the third floor, it just feels like it's set back because of that break. And the little bit detail around the windows, I wish there was more on the right side, which is facing the street. It's a little bit blank for me. But overall, I think I really like the compositions, the way the things are set back. It is creating a lot of diversity. It's not a flat box which is sitting there. And this is a very elegant material. So I think it'll give it a more rich look to this building than initially we were looking at. That was a very cold feel. That was our concern last time.
I concur, but if what you're saying, Mike, is, am I concerned that there's so much of that in the commercial, and I think it's being used to differentiate the commercial from the non-commercial parts of the building. And that I agree with Malka that this is a warmer material, and it's much more human scale, and there's an abrash to the finish, and that it's not just one color. And so that differentiation within the large plane, I find very pleasing, and I think is a good architectural expression of the differences in the functions.
particularly since to me it's a lighter color and it's sort of bright.
yeah.
If this was gray or dark brown, I might have a different opinion. It might look more, kind of like, not like an office building, not like, I personally really like this.
Yeah, I like the stone. I just, in looking at the drawing, I was trying to think, how's that going to look? And I don't have as much experience as other people.
I think it's going to look great.
Malka says it's subjective, but I
Right.
think it's going to look fine, too.
Okay.
Will you entertain a motion?
I will entertain a motion.
I move that we approve this last piece of the application 12D12 and 12SD01 for 86 3rd Street, subject to the findings and conditions in the staff report.
I'll second that.
All right, any comments? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, none opposed? Got it.
Good luck.
Great job. Great job.
Break ground tomorrow.
Really, it's going to be beautiful.
That would be nice.
Great, okay. When do you think you're going to start?
Well, we're 2 weeks into the building permit cycle, so
That's pretty
I'm sure we'll
cool.
get rejected once or twice.
Comments.
It feels like a rejection.
But there'll be solid comments you can just tick.
Are you going to start during the winter season? You're going to dig holes and stuff, yeah?
Tell me when winter is, I'll try to go around.
Soon, soon, I hope.
Okay, thank you. Good luck.
Okay. Commissioners' reports and comments. I'm the first. I was scheduled during one of the breaks to go to the city council meeting, and after reading the agenda and talking to Val, there was nothing on the agenda that had to do with the planning commission. Nothing. So I didn't even bother. So, if anyone else was scheduled, did anyone else go to any?
I'm
Yes, I
scheduled
did.
in 2 weeks.
So I attended the September 24th meeting. Actually, I did it through the video portal. That was really cool. There was a lot of things on that agenda. The one thing that we did talk about was the Lot 12 in Morningside, if you remember the last time we were here. So that came in front of the city council. What I found was interesting was so there were a couple of comments that the council made that I thought we should keep in mind. One was that consistency of the language, which was that instead of should and must, that the language should all be shall. And I noticed that I looked at our tape of what we talked about, and we said it should be this way instead of shall be that way.
That was, very deliberate. And we write a lot of codes and ordinances, obviously, and in codes and ordinances, you have to be very specific about should versus shall, and that's always considered and a conscious decision is made. And the same was here. In these conditions, they were deliberate, that there were shoulds that would provide a little bit more flexibility versus shalls. So I think they were...
But city council took all the shoulds and musts and made them all shalls.
Right. With the exception of the 1 versus 2 story, they left that as should.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's something to remember for the future, isn't it?
We'll watch our language.
Well, I think we know that. I think that we consciously made those recommendations, and you can say they should be shalls, which eliminates flexibility, or
Yes,
they
exactly.
could be shoulds, which provides a little bit of flexibility.
Right.
Exactly.
The comment was, so the things that were brought up was the road that, the current driveway, and whether to make it a fire road, and council said, no, it's got to have access. The 2 stories versus 1 story, there was quite a lot of conversation about that. And the other thing was about the rental of the unit, that they didn't want to have somebody living there as a renter. And so that they said it could be rented, but it couldn't be rented as a
Residential unit?
full-time dwelling of some sort.
And how we regulate that from a building code perspective is an independent unit has a bedroom, a bathroom, and a kitchen.
Exactly.
A guest house has a bedroom and a bathroom, perhaps, but not a kitchen. The fact that somebody is paying rent, I mean, I just heard somebody say tonight that their adult child was going to be coming home, but they had to start paying rent. We can't control who.
Right.
But, yeah, so they left the language as an independent living unit.
Right. And then the other thing was they took apart number 7, which was about the items to be removed and not removed, and that the water district, they really got into what they wanted to have happen, not just leave it up to the water district. So that was...
For curiosity's sake, were there a lot of residents there saying the same things, or
There
more
was...
subdued?
There was, no, there were about 3 residents that came and spoke to about, they really didn't want, it was mainly the fire road, and I think the elevation change, and they were concerned. Oh, the other thing that they, city council did was they added back the language about it could be not necessarily, we said exclusively Morningside, they said, or it could be related, it could be looking like the rest of the, is it Milverton? I don't know.
Yeah, Milverton, which actually relaxed the condition the commission adopted, because
Yeah.
it had to be focused on compatibility with these low one-story buildings, and they expanded that to say no, compatibility with the neighborhood, Morningside and Milverton. So
Yeah, and, yeah. I'll leave it.
well, that opens up the design process a little bit more. So
Exactly. And it took 2 hours to get through all that.
Any other reports?
Oh, the other thing I was going to say is that the council, they did also adopt, just environmentally, the climate action plan was moved forward, as well as the amicus brief, and the solid waste franchise agreement got instantly approved, but without any conversation.
And I think they've had a few conversations on that already, so that was already.
It might be
That was-
like
that one
our
was
meeting
kind of-
tonight.
Yeah, they
Gone
said
through it
we
so
have 1
many
minute to
times.
go
I mean, really.
before 11, and it was like, okay, we'll approve
Done.
number 8.
We're down here. Yeah.
And then they were primed on that one, so they were ready
Yeah.
to.
So
Anyway, that was,
I'm the rep for the next Tuesday, and then Malka is, I am on the 8th,
You're on the 8th.
yes.
So when is the next one after that?
the 22nd.
The 22nd,
I think I'm on that one.
and that's the one you cannot do?
That's the one I'm hoping to change.
If you
I'll
email me, I might switch with you. I think I'm the one after. If you
I will.
email me and remind, I can, I will.
Happy to do that.
And if you get in a jam, I'm always available. I don't have any more sessions that I can trade with, but sure.
You know, I would be happy to offload, but you're putting yourself up.
But if somebody else can switch, I'd rather switch. I don't
I
want
just
to.
thought I'd mention that in passing.
Yeah.
Yeah, just remind me.
I would email.
So
Thank
then-
you so much. I would love to switch.
So then, as far as so back to the minutes from last meeting.
Yes.
And the mayor. So the question was about the phone meetings. Is that, you're just waiting to hear back from?
Yes, and I'm
So
not.
now we're at
like-
this part of the-
I'm not one that likes to wait. I thought I'd wait to this meeting to tell you what I did, and Jared was very open, he works at what, Google or?
Cisco?
Cisco rather. So he's pretty technically savvy, and I've met with his brother, who's also technically savvy. So my thought was following up with both Marcia and him, and any ammunition that you can provide me.
I'm emailing you
Just-
right now. I was there.
I love this kind of
Yeah,
to
but
do,
look, they have
can do.
made this in their planning department.
Right, but
Okay.
at this point, we're talking about the telephone meetings. And so.
It wasn't a telephone meeting. I met with him in person.
No.
No,
for the
the issue was
telephone
about
meeting.
the telephone meeting.
For off-site
Oh yeah.
participation.
Oh, I'll get to that
Because
one.
the
I was
paper-
just
the paperless,
talking.
there's,
I was
it's a
still on
no-brainer.
I was still on paperless, so I'd like to follow up on the paperless.
Okay, that's
Says
All right,
it's
now,
in, yes.
now, as regards the off-site
Meeting participation?
meeting participation, David, I'd like to have you summarize this if you don't mind, because I was really reporting to David. I think I included you too, didn't I, James? I thought I did. And I think it probably should come from staff rather than me. What and why?
That sounds
The
very serious.
conclusion was as it was.
The council's policy was based in some concerns about telephonic meeting attendance does not count towards a quorum. And it also makes it difficult in terms of Brown Act, especially when it's off-site, out of the country, those sorts of things. And so, and there was also a cost issue. There's cost to the city, and
$40 a month.
it's a practicality issue as well for staff to manage that. So those were all the concerns.
So
that
if the mayor
policy was
participates
addressing.
in the city council meetings remotely, he doesn't count in the quorum for city council at that point?
That's my understanding.
And I don't think I've seen council,
Jared's done it at least twice.
oh, okay.
And that's why I was hoping that he would be more receptive to the thought that we could do it. And as for cost, I know that you say that, David, but Skype is just about 10 cents. And so that one I find specious.
But I think it even more, I got even more reasons than that. Another reason would be that because this is an open agenda, public attendance, in essence, if you're calling in from Argentina, you would have to make notice at the hotel
And
that
actually,
you were having a public meeting and have your hotel door open.
actually,
to the
John
public.
has done that.
Well, I'm just saying, so what's the practicality? Just so you know, it's not like you can just call in. You've got to,
But I think the short answer from our perspective is that the council asked to agendize this for their discussion, and they
Don't want to do it.
they moved to not allow it. So it wasn't, we didn't say this is a
Right.
bad thing for cost or.
And that's what we, last meeting had talked about, was we, the PTC, because our meetings are videoed and on TV live, that, I mean, I think no other commission has that.
No.
Right? And so therefore, it's a lot easier for us to have somebody away from the meeting to watch, because they can watch over the web, and that we'd like to be excluded from the
Prohibition.
the prohibition.
Well, maybe
And
that's
so-
something the chair can bring
And that's
up
what
with
we,
the,
that's why
yeah.
we made the recommendation that the chair
I
talk to the
didn't
mayor.
get any open door policy for it from Jared. I really did. He was really nice about it, but he cited all the reasons why. The council decided against it. Thought it might opened up, one of the things, again, everyone is arguable and has a yin and a yang to it. But, I mean, if they open it up to the planning commission, why wouldn't they open it up to transportation?
Well, that's
because
because
we're on video.
well, we are transportation.
I'm sorry.
BPAC.
Or BPAC or somebody. Yeah, right.
But we are the only commission that actually has binding votes on the codes and so on. Are,
And it's broadcast, so.
We're broadcast, that's, I think
and so
that would
those two
be,
pieces, I mean, we are decision makers
Right.
as opposed to
You are the only commission able to
advisory
make
commissions.
decisions.
And so in that sense, we are different, we are not the same. And I have said that before. But what I take away from this is Jared listened to you very, very much and said they're not going to agenda, or he didn't volunteer that he would find anybody to agendize it. So if we want to do something about it, we need to find 2 city council members or 3?
To agendize it for
Yeah.
further discussion?
2.
Yeah, just 2.
Okay.
And it's 3 to do any kind of.
Well, I knew that, but in
So-
order to get it on the agenda to be looked at again, we need to find 2 members of city council who are willing to put it on the agenda.
Yes.
Well, if someone here, I'm just, from my standpoint, because I don't think I'll be one of the people calling in, it's not as much as a priority for me as it might be for other people, like, as an example, John Bear, and maybe even you, because I know you leave. So if someone wants to carry that ball, by all means, they can. I don't think I'm going to carry it any further.
so do we need a motion or something so that
I think this-
we
no,
has
this
a-
is just a
No, I'm going to
This
have a
is just
question
an-
for,
yeah, this
so
is-
that if we want to, so if people, individual council, or individual commissioners want to approach city council, that we are blessing, that we as a commission have said we want to continue to
But we
pursue
did that
that.
at the last meeting, basically.
So we're okay. Because I'm happy to
That's-
talk to.
that's
Well,
why
I didn't
I'm
go to,
happy to
I didn't
talk
go
to
to
the city
Val, I didn't
council.
go to any of the other council.
No,
I know.
I just
the
want-
recommendation after we had this discussion, David
Yeah.
suggested that you talk to the mayor.
I
and you
think
did
for
that.
tonight's purposes, I don't think there has to be a formal motion, but I think there's just a consensus among the 4 commissioners that a commissioner approach council
What you're
members.
saying is.
So I will be
okay.
happy to do that, because I'm in touch
Who are you
with
going
them.
to, you're going to approach?
I will,
He can approach whomsoever he wishes.
Well, I'd just like to know who you're going to approach, somebody on the city council.
yeah.
Okay, sir.
I will approach the mayor even.
I mean, I'll support. I think,
We will
I think we
did
should do it.
support it.
I
You
did
said that.
support it.
You did your
But I don't
job.
know if I want to carry the flag
no.
longer. on
Which
something
is why
that-
I said I'll continue on to have that conversation
So
and see if
relay
I can.
race. Just pass
Yes,
the
pass
Uh-huh.
the baton.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else that, future agenda items that anybody has?
No, I will just email you the stuff I have for Cupertino.
Fantastic, yes.
And then you can.
Now, I will definitely follow up on the paperless office.
I do have one thing that I was thinking of.
There's always somebody like that.
Because it has to do in relationship to the project we just saw, where not this meeting and not maybe the meeting before, but maybe the study session, maybe it was the meeting, we talked about if it's a medical office building, had to do with the allocation of the parking spaces. And we were very careful to point out that although it might not be medical office building, that was what Dave was looking for. And if that was the case, there was going to be a greater load on the parking at street level than could be compensated by the teaser parking in the front. And so we carefully discussed how that could be adjusted with their parking plan. The question for you, group, is would you consider a future agenda item to look at some tweaking of our parking code if we know that it's a medical office building coming in? If there's some way that we can say, if it's set up in such a way that it looks like it's going to be either medical or dental, and we know what the loads will be, the parking should have a different standard.
What's the code, is the code different now from office to medical, or they all?
No, it's not, and I
lumped
think
into one?
that's, is these medical facilities are becoming more and more specialized, I think this probably is a good thing to look at. The negative part of that is it becomes more prescriptive, like restaurants versus retail, is once you build the building, you can never use it for another use because it's locked in by parking, but I think it would be a good idea to look at.
Well, but if, I'm not saying this would happen, but if it turned out hypothetically that the parking standard was higher for office in a medical office situation, and it dropped to a lower
I think it is.
load, then you would have more parking than you needed, which is not a bad thing, as opposed to the reverse, where you have insufficient parking when you want to move into it. So
I agree with that. I mean, if it doesn't lock somebody that they can use that building for one or the other, but if you can do it for the worst case,
that's what I'm thinking.
One thing
Then
we
I'm
found
on
about, it was
board.
like 5 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, was that our parking standards, which were kind of based on national standards, and they were older standards, were, for offices, were too high because of the nature of the offices that we typically.
You were 4 per thousand at that time, I think, I
Yeah,
remember.
we
Now
were
it's
getting-
3.3, right?
We're building like Northern Trust offices where, people work out of suites and the parking lots were sitting empty. So we did a study and we used national standards and we also measured several Los Altos offices, and that's when we lowered it from 4 to 3.
Right. But if it's, medical definitely requires more than
Well, so the
office.
question is, that's a point of discussion, would you, I'm suggesting it's a future agenda item, we need to have at least one other commissioner.
I'm happy to support
Okay,
that.
then, can we, staff, would you look into doing it?
Or if there are 3 commissioners that ask for it, we can go ahead and prepare a staff report and then...
Oh, are there
There are
three?
three.
Oh, no, it takes 4 because it's
Are
not the
there
city
four
council.
commissioners who
Yeah,
would?
there are. No, I think it's a great idea.
Okay. Yeah.
Because you wouldn't want to approve the lesser standard, an office building, and all of a sudden, what you're saying, someone
Right.
says, oh, by the way, I've got a dentist and a doctor, and you go, wait, whoa, that's different.
And, it's a little bit of a negative, but maybe it's not a negative, is that what that does to a building like the Third Street project is it's going to be a condition that this may not be used for medical or dental offices, and then somebody, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years down the road has to be able to track that. So it does
think-
change. It makes it a little bit more regulatory and prescriptive in terms of
But-
just saying offices are allowed.
But if we get to look at it and see what you come up with, at least we'll have something concrete in our
Yeah.
hands to see how bad is it.
Well, that's something
not
you
too
can make,
much.
if there are 4 of us who agree
there were.
that we would like this on the agenda and get a staff
Yeah, we can
report, then
use
you
the-
can examine that piece and let
Yeah.
us know.
We can use the National Parking Standards Manual just to give you a rough estimate of what the differentiation
good
is.
start, yeah.
And then we can decide if we want to, hire a traffic engineer to do a more detailed analysis.
Cool.
It'll be in the 5 category, I'll bet.
Well, you know what?
We don't know.
Again, it's a point for discussion. The only thing we can talk about here is, can we put it on the agenda? And the answer is yes.
Sounds
And
good.
there are 4 of us who want it, so therefore we can get a staff report. How long do you think it will take?
It'll be fairly quick, next
Cool.
meeting or the meeting after.
Okay.
If we meet.
Any other discussion items?
Well, I did have a question, and I guess it's more of a question for staff. So I met with Cedric regarding green bike lanes, and what was interesting is that the CIP has in it, I want to say slurry work, which would be the best time to look at putting in, additional things like bike lanes, because you could do green asphalt and do a whole bunch of stuff. But I'm not sure, is this commission, is it BPAC, who should be reviewing, streets and saying, we think for this, we're going to redo these streets, and here's some improvements that should be looked at or
Good time, because when you slurry seals, when you stripe,
Absolutely.
you do the whole thing. That's right.
Exactly.
That's right.
And I noticed like Covington just got redone and a couple of streets got redone, and I thought, it would have been a great time to really
Missed
kind of
opportunity.
Yeah.
look
Yeah.
at it rather than wait longer.
I think that's,
I don't know.
Just, you have to ask the member of the public who would like to participate.
Would you like to participate? Yeah, great. Wonderful.
I can take the,
So Jim Fenton from BPAC. We do try and get advance notice of when there's a slurry seal and that kind of work going on, and try and provide input to staff about any striping changes that are needed and so forth, any opportunities for improving things. So an example being Campbell Avenue, they put in some edge of roadway lines in order to narrow the traffic lane, and also to provide a better opportunity, kind of a more of a measure of safety for bicyclists on the road over portions of that. So we do currently look at that. We haven't specifically looked at doing anything as extensive as green lanes or anything like that, but we do look at the striping.
Is that part of the agenda item? Is that how it comes up? I mean, because as part of as member of the public, if I wanted to comment, I just didn't quite know where to go. Where do I go to talk about that, right?
I'm sure it must be there somewhere, but it comes up typically once a year or so.
Right. I mean, that's,
I don't
you're going to
recall.
have, I assume that staff has, planned for the upcoming year over the summer. Here's the roadways we're going to do.
And it always seems to come at us a little bit differently each time, but we do that review.
Yeah.
I think this is really more of a bigger picture discussion in terms of developing a policy for when these higher level of improvements. You don't want to wait until the pavement management program is budgeted and we're putting bids out for
I wouldn't
slurry
think
seal.
so.
That's kind of
Oh,
too late.
exactly.
You're going to get resistance, I would think.
Well, it's just too late in the process. So we need to know what our expectation is and develop a set of criteria, and then those criteria will apply to every project.
So is that a policy that would be something from BPAC or from PTC or both?
Because it's the transportation part's the part that
It could come from either. I mean, VPAC is probably better because that's specific. the
bikes
bicycle.
and pedestrians, but we might want to do traffic calming measures or something, I don't know, I'm just thinking
Right.
like transportation, it's part of,
No, I agree, but I was focusing on when we, slurry streets, what we do to the shoulders and the bike lanes and how we treat them differently. So,
yeah.
And I think we get things from BPAC if it gets overlapped, right?
Yes.
So,
well, this would be more of a budget discussion, so something like this would probably go from BPAC to City Council. But I think sharing that idea with BPAC and having them forward a recommendation to City Council, we're already at the end of the calendar year, which means we're going to start working on our capital improvement program, early next year. So that would be the time to roll that into the capital program.
Yeah.
So maybe the representative from BPAC can take it back to his committee as something to agendize for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's you.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if there's nothing else to discuss,
Oh, we have a few things.
Almost a clean getaway.
Take 1 minute.
Yes, staff.
Just to share with the commission that we are launching our housing element update for 2014.
Oh, joy.
And you need to give yourself about 12 months of that because of the demographic information collection, the public hearings, the CEQA analysis. It'll come before the PTC. It has to go to council. Then it has to go to state for review and approval. So we're getting that initiated, and we'll be launching that early next year. And then David is going to share some things about some future trainings.
And I have to tell you, our staff is the best for the housing element because there are other cities on the peninsula who are like 8 years behind, and we are always on time, thanks to James.
We have cities that are still working on the last cycle.
I know.
And we're ramping
It's
up
10
in
years.
2014.
Yeah.
So our next meeting, October 17th, we're going to have a presentation from the Silicon Valley chapter of the AIA on Architecture 101. They have a presentation on
AIA stands for?
American Institute of Architects.
It's the Santa Clara Valley chapter, which I'm sure two of you are both.
I'm really
I'm sure that
looking
they know,
forward
but
That's great.
for those members of the audience that are watching at home.
Yes.
They have an outreach to the public program called Architecture 101 that pretty much does a sort of introduction to someone who doesn't know how to look at what's happening in their community and gives them language and tools to do that.
Cool.
it's pretty cool.
Very cool.
So we're looking at holding a special meeting then on October 17th for that, and we'll be inviting the Design Review Commission. And
What's the timing that we're looking at?
You're not going to be here?
it's probably 2 hours, 7.
So, but it starts at 7, or? Okay, that's what I wanted.
And one of the things unique to it is that the AIA is requesting that we not broadcast it. So what we're thinking is we'll dedicate that meeting to this training, and we won't call it a regular PTC meeting. We'll just call it a PTC special training meeting, and then we won't be broadcasting
it's
it.
In essence, it is. so, yeah.
It is, yeah. And they asked us to do that, so we thought that was reasonable.
Okay.
And then following shortly, we'll be putting together our design review tour.
Yeah, oh, good, good.
Field
So that's
trip.
still on the plate? Good.
It's
Field
on
trip.
plate, definitely.
And then before you close the meeting, actually, because you reminded me, at the meeting about the Millerton, or the Lot 12, there was a comment made by one of the city council members that certain buildings, like a one-story building wouldn't get reviewed normally, and they made that a condition.
It always gets reviewed. It gets reviewed by staff. The question is whether it goes to a public hearing.
Okay. And that's kind of what I didn't understand that.
In Morningside, we always said that would be a requirement just because of the plan unit nature.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that was always our expectation.
But I wanted to make sure for future reference that if we say we'd like something to be a one-story building, that means that staff only looks at it potentially.
Unless it's a planned unit development, in which case it's a different
Or
animal.
it's perhaps a very modern house or something different.
I don't
Something that reaches the level of question that the planning director feels it's worth examining.
Okay.
But we do apply the same exact process and standards. We do a site visit, we do an analysis, we caucus as a division group and review it, and we apply the same findings and the same conditions. And then if there's something unusual and the applicant doesn't want to make any changes to the plans, we could call that up for a DRC review. Yes.
And I think staff has done previously also, like even if they're ready to support a project, they're like, well, it's just a little bit too out of the box. We got to take it forward. That works perfectly.
Okay.
He was
Not bad,
ready.
40 minutes. So I'm telling you now, and I'll send you an email. I'm out of town the week of October 14th.
I think you already have done that,
I
but
think I did.